Hello, sexy people. I am here with Carnivore Cutie Phumi, and Phumi has reversed her PCOS symptoms in 3 months. Now, stay with us for this one because it was all with diet. So, a phenomenal story. And not only did she reverse her PCOS symptoms quickly, but she also used to get dizzy after 1 to 2 hours after eating due to blood sugar regulation. She also used to suffer from the constant cravings that so many of us have. And since she changed her diet, she can fast and the food noise is gone. How many of us want that? So, welcome to the show, Carnivore Cutie Phumi.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be here and to share these amazing results because even I still can't believe it.
Yes, it's absolutely phenomenal. So tell us a bit about where you're from and where you are now in the UK.
Yes, I'm from Zimbabwe and I grew up there. I spent all my teen years there and then I left for university in South Africa when I was 19. And then I was in South Africa for about 10 more years for my early career. And I moved to the UK about 5 years ago with my husband. And growing up, I ate according to the food pyramid. So it was very carbohydrate based, very low fat. In fact, I never was advised or educated that fat is important. And neither were my parents or anyone else around me. We received the guidelines from the powers that be and we followed them. And unfortunately, that led to me getting my first period very, very young. I got it at the age of 10. And I think that was officially the first time for me, not that I knew at age 10, but that was the first sign that something was going wrong with my health.
Yeah. Yeah. You got those first signs at the age of 10, but what was it later on that made you decide to change your diet, or what started to go wrong next?
So throughout high school and primary school, I noticed that I was the only child that would get dizzy while playing sport. And I would get dizzy amongst, my family members. I'd be the only one who would get dizzy after eating the same meal as everybody else. And no matter what the meal was, it would always happen. And unfortunately, at the time, and I guess in my country, there weren't really any dietitians or anyone that you could go to for advice about what to eat or what to do. So the only time I was actually able to take matters into my own hands and see a dietitian and investigate what's going on with my health was when I started working in South Africa and I was able to make my own choices about my body and my health because I was just tired of being the odd one out and tired of feeling like my body is the problem. It didn't make sense to me because I didn't eat as bad as other people and they wouldn't get dizzy. And I just didn't understand. So I saw many dietitians, many doctors, many naturopaths, functional medicine doctors, and they all tried to help with the information that they had. And I'm very thankful for, the things they taught me, but none of it helped, unfortunately, because our lifestyle, whether you are on this side of the world or whether you're in Africa, is always very carbohydrate and vegetable based. And people don't see vegetables as a problem and they don't see vegetables as carbohydrates, that's for sure. So a lot of the advice I got was have sweet potato instead of rice. But sweet potato is still a carbohydrate, it's still sugar. So I remained dizzy after meals. Nothing really changed. I continued to have to carry food along with me. And it was really embarrassing. I would start a new job and then have my almonds over there, my cucumber over there. And people would just look at me like, what is wrong with you? And then I'd have to explain, this is just how I am. And it was irritating because even though I had those foods, the satiety wouldn't last long. And so I'd keep eating. I'd have those 6 small meals a day, but I didn't feel strong. I didn't feel like I'm not going to faint at any moment. My brain was not fully charged. And I'm only realizing this now because I found something that does make me feel satiated, fully charged, wide awake, and removed all the brain fog. I didn't know that I could feel this good because feeling so bad was my norm.
You tried all these diets, the higher carb, the vegetables and all the rest of it, to get rid of the dizziness. Did it help?
No, it didn't help because no one ever taught me the importance of fat. And vegetables don't have fat, do they? And so I could eat a salad with all the avocado in the world, but I still wouldn't feel strong and like able to function to the maximum, not the way I do now.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that stunned me, because I've had periods of vegetarianism and even veganism, one of the things that stunned me when I learned about it is there are essential fats, there are essential proteins for human nutrition, and there are no essential carbohydrates. That just about blew my mind, because most of the foods that they suggest you eat on that pyramid are carbohydrates.
Yes.
So no one, so many of us are sick. So you were not feeling good. You tried all these many diets, and then what brought you to the solution that worked?
So I would say my journey has taken about 10 years of trial and error. I've done everything you can think of. I've done the blood type diet, which I thought was the key because I thought, oh, it's my blood. Nothing else will be better than that. Blood type diet still left me dizzy, still had a painful period. Nothing much changed. I lost weight, but that's about it. I've done low histamine diet, low FODMAP diet. I've done an anti-mold diet. I've done personalized diets from various doctors. None of that made me feel good. And then I went vegan at some point as a last resort because I thought, okay, I've tried everything. Let me do the most extreme thing that I've heard of, which is the vegan diet. Although I must say that I decided to take that extreme route when my dad was sadly diagnosed with cancer. And me being me and the researcher that I am, the research I found said vegan and plant-based diet will help the cancer go into remission, do that. And so I thought, well, if it's going to help cancer, it's definitely going to help me with what I'm going through. Unfortunately, that was not true for my dad and that was not true for me, but you only find out once you try. And I agree that the vegan diet works for some, very few people. And I think the rest of us do actually need animal protein. And actually, I think going vegan is what activated PCOS for me, because that when I started to feel the stabbing pain in my ovaries when I would get my menstrual cycle. Before that, all I had was cramps. Yes, they were really bad cramps, but nothing compares to that stabbing pain of PCOS. And so I was vegan for 8 months. After 8 months, when I realized, no, my symptoms are getting worse, I stopped the vegan diet. And the first meal I had was chicken wings. And I was so like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this. I'm so glad that this is back in my life. And I was so angry that vegan didn't work that the truth is I decided to eat however I wanted because I thought, well, if vegan doesn't work, nothing is going to work. So let me just eat what I want because my period is never going to heal. My blood sugar is never going to improve. So just stuff it. I'm going to do what I want. I'm so angry with the world. I'm so angry with my body. I'm so angry with everything. And so I brought back dessert into my life. I started eating carbs again. I ate takeaways again. I think I was having dessert multiple times a week because I was so angry. And, you know, our food decisions are usually emotionally fueled. And so a few months of doing that, and I ended up very overweight. My face was so swollen. You could see the insulin resistance just by looking at me. And so my fatigue was on the next level. I felt terrible. I was in a bad mood. I was so unhappy. And then I decided to reach out to another doctor just one more time. And so I reached out to another doctor recommended by a friend of mine, and he put me on what's called the anti-mold diet. And this was the catalyst to how I ended up where I am now. The anti-mold diet was a very low carbohydrate, although it included fruit and it included chicken and absolutely no red meat. And so I did this for 2 or 3 months, and I noticed that nothing much was changing. I still had a painful cycle. And so I decided to let that go. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but let me explain what I was having for breakfast every day. I would have a bowl of fruit, thinking I was so good and healthy because fruit is a natural thing made by God. So let me start my day off with fruit. And I also decided to have fruit because, you know, you read about how fruit is alkaline and it's high vibrational and it's detoxing. So that's what I was having for breakfast. After the fruit, I would have a chia seed pudding with some nuts, some honey, and some more fruit, actually. So it was a very sugar-based breakfast. And then for lunch, I'd have some kind of chicken, and then dinner, maybe some kind of fish. But again, still feeling unstable and dizzy after those meals. So that's why I decided, no, this is actually not working still. And then one day I was in the grocery store to buy some more fruit for my next breakfast for the week. And I promise you, by some divine intervention and some divine voice, I just got this message, don't buy fruit anymore. And I was like, what the heck is going on? What's wrong with fruit? And so I went home and I Googled for the first time, is fruit sugar the same as all other kinds of sugar? And I think I went on YouTube to ask that question, and I watched a video. I don't remember who it was. And the message was, yes, your body doesn't differentiate between fruit sugar, refined sugar, unrefined sugar, brown sugar, coconut blossom sugar, monk fruit sugar, stevia. It's all bad for you. And so after watching that, YouTube started recommending videos about keto. So I started to learn about keto. And I was like, okay, so if I cut out fruit and I cut out carbs, I'll be left with veggies and meat and I'll be fine. So I watched lots of keto videos and I was keen to start keto the next day. But then YouTube starts to recommend more videos, something deeper than keto. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Then I started getting videos about the carnivore diet. And once I started watching videos about carnivore, I thought, oh my gosh, it's not about carb and green veg. It's actually about all veg being eliminated, because then I started to learn about lectins. I started to learn about oxalates. I started to learn about plant toxins and how carbohydrates also turn into sugar. I don't know about you, but I thought sugar was one branch and carbohydrates was another branch. I didn't know that carbs also turn into sugar. And so when I look back at my life and how I used to have white potato and rice in some meals sometimes at the same time, I had no idea that I was having sugar twice per meal. And even if you choose better veggies like sweet potato, you're still having sugar. And I did not know. And so once I learned about carnivore and I saw the people who were speaking about carnivore, you know, the doctors that we all know, for example, Dr. Tony Hampton, have you seen his skin? He looks so vibrant and healthy. And then, you know, Dr. Kills, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Kelly Hogan, all of these people, they just look so healthy and vibrant and so good. And then you hear other people's personal stories besides the doctors, and you just cannot deny that they look really good. And so once you go vegan, what is stopping you from trying the opposite extreme and cutting out all plants, all carbs, and only eating meat? And so I decided, okay, I've got nothing to lose. I've tried it all. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard, but I'm going to try it because I'm desperate now. I've seen every doctor I could see. I've tried everything I can do, and I'm still in the same position. And people are very skeptical and worried about the carnivore diet because we're told saturated fat will clog your arteries, you'll have a heart attack soon. But I was at the point where I don't know what to believe anymore because I followed the guidelines to the T and it messed me up. So if I do the opposite of what the guidelines say, am I going to die in 3 months? Let's find out. So I tried it for 3 full months and here I am now. I didn't die. I feel really good. And yeah, my PCOS is good.
That's amazing. So, because we've grazed over it, and maybe you can not remember all of it, but I would really like to go into what was the position you were in with PCOS? Because you said, you know, you were desperate for a solution. But for people watching or listening, they may not realize, what does PCOS do, what the symptoms you're experiencing day to day, and how it's affecting your life. So tell us about that.
It is a horrible condition. They call it the diabetes of the ovaries. And once you hear that, then you realize, okay, this is diet related. But if you go to like a normal doctor, they'll never present it to you in that way. And so they'll give you a suggestion of metformin, which is a pharmaceutical drug. I don't know exactly what it does, but that's usually the case. They put you on a pill. I don't think it reverses PCOS. I think it's more to manage your symptoms, but how it affects people usually is that you're more prone to be overweight if you have PCOS. Your hormones are super unregulated and unstable. Your period is irregular. So instead of a set 28 or 30 day, you just don't know when it's going to come. Some people don't even know if it's going to come at all. And sometimes it doesn't come at all. Some people get their cycle a few times a year, which is, you know, a really bad sign of health, because as a woman, your cycle is your 5th vital sign. Everything that you need to know about how you're doing is in your cycle. So if you don't get it, you have no feedback, which means you're lost. Thankfully, I was getting mine every month, but it was always on a different day, which makes planning your life difficult because you don't know when it's coming. And then once it does come, it's very painful. I cannot tell you how horrible the stabbing pain is. It is unbearable. I would lie in the bed for 48 to 72 hours waiting for the pain to subside. And usually painkillers would not be effective because that pain is just, it's beyond. And now that I have a cycle that's almost painless, I can't believe that I lived through that. And now when I have my cycle as painless as it is, I think, how did I live? How did I handle that? Because the pain was beyond 20 out of 10. And now what I feel is the people who've had cycles the way I have them now, they must be God's favorite, because I was really suffering, but I didn't know that that was abnormal, because you go to a doctor and they say, every woman goes through this. You know, they just dismiss you. And so when I speak to friends and family members about their cycles, they never had the level of pain that I had. And so besides PCOS, I also had endometriosis. And the crazy thing is, when you have endo, the first recommendation is don't eat red meat. And now I've eaten red meat for 4 months straight, and I no longer have those pains. How does that make any sense? It's crazy.
Yeah. And did you have fibroids?
No, not that I have, no.
So your PCOS symptoms were basically overshadowing your life because you're in pain every single month for several days. And you've got other symptoms as well, and you've got endometriosis. So you're really yearning for a cure. You decide to try carnivore. And tell us what happened, week 1, 2, and so on.
So week 1, first you go through sugar withdrawal. And it depends on everybody how bad that will be. Some people have extreme headaches. They become really down and in a bad mood because it's difficult. You've had sugar all this time. It has that dopamine effect, and now you take it away. Personally, for some reason, I didn't suffer too much with that. I think because I was so determined and so much in pain, I was just like, I don't care what it takes. If I can't have sugar, that's it. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to think about it. But I did have the headache, that withdrawal headache. It sits right here and nothing takes it away. You can have all the water you like. It's not going to go away because of water. It's just your body fighting the urge to go and have a piece of chocolate or something. So another thing I noticed, because I gave my body fat, not just fat, not like avocado fat, but saturated animal fat for the first time. I don't know about you, but I never made an effort to have the fatty part of the meat. But that week, I intentionally ate the fatty part of the lamb chop, the fatty part of the beef. And once you give your body that kind of fat, something happens in your brain, and I promise you feel like the neurons touch each other and there's some kind of spark. I was feeling so alert and awake and alive for the first time in my life. And I can't say I'd ever felt like that before, especially with the low-fat trend that we all went through, whether it's low-fat yogurt, low-fat milk, and then the day you have full-fat yogurt and full-fat cream, it's just so different. So the first thing is that I felt my neurons literally coming alive. And with that coming alive of the neurons, one of the side effects of having fat is that you will end up having nightmares. That is a common symptom of people who go carnivore, especially if you have been on a low-fat or no-fat diet. You'll have nightmares because there's so much cholesterol flowing through. For some reason, you'll have nightmares. They don't last long, but if you do try it, don't be surprised if you have nightmares. It's normal.
And how long did the nightmares last?
I think about 3 days.
Yeah, okay. So it's not too
Yeah, it's not too bad. But also, that was the week where I realized I'm not dizzy after eating. And I couldn't believe it because it had never, ever, ever happened. I would eat breakfast at about 9 or 10 in the morning, and breakfast would be maybe some mince or a steak of some sort with eggs and bacon sometimes. And then the next time that I would think about food would be about 4 p.m., something that had never happened in my life before. So that showed me that, okay, I'm on the right track. Let's see what else is going to happen. And ever since, that's all I've been having, literally mince in the day, the steak in the night. And it's so simple. It sounds boring, but it's so effective.
And I like what you said, something you can feel your neurons coming alive. I felt that as well, but you feel every cell is getting excited because it's now getting the nutrition. Because it's almost criminal that they told us, eat the carbohydrate, which actually make us sick, and don't eat the only 2 foods that we need for nutrition, or the most nutritious of them, red meat and animal fat. Even eggs, they told us not to eat.
Yes, exactly.
So you started this and you were sort of skeptical a little bit. Didn't know, I don't know if this is going to work. But what was the thing that said to you, okay, this is it. I'm going to stick with this longer term?
So, like I said, as a woman, I always take my period as the gauge of where I stand. So the first period that I had, once I finished, 28 days of carnivore, my cycle arrived. And for the first time, and I don't know how long, I didn't need to pop painkillers. That was it for me. I was like, no way. Because every month I would pop them, even though they wouldn't work. But psychologically, I'd tell myself, okay, I've got the painkiller. That's it. This time, it was like I was waiting for the pain. I'm not saying there was no pain. I'm just saying that I was able to bear it without painkillers. And that for me was enough. I was like, okay, I'm in now. This is it. I'm going to continue. Let's do 90 days and let's see what happens.
Brilliant. It's such an amazing story. So tell us about, because people will be watching and listening who've got PCOS, who've tried everything like you did, and they'll be a bit skeptical like you and I were, thinking meat only, what are these people talking about? And what actually do you eat? Because I've had a lot of people say to me, but I couldn't eat that much meat.
I get that. So in the beginning, when you decide to go carnivore, there is a period called the priming period. And that is when you allow yourself to have every kind of meat that you desire with no restriction. And so I was having salami, I was having prosciutto with cheese, pretending I'm on holiday every day. And then I started having bacon for the first time in, I don't know how many years, because at some point I stopped having pork altogether. And what I found when I had pork is that because it's so fatty, it actually keeps me more satiated than beef, which was crazy for me. But then I started having, fish like salmon, sardines that was so good for you. So, you don't restrict yourself. You don't say to yourself, okay, this meat is good, this meat is bad. Have it all because your body craves it, especially if you've been on a low fat or no fat or vegan diet. It's just whatever you like, have that. And then what I usually eat now is bacon. Sometimes I did go through a phase where I cut out pork and chicken because I started to learn about omega-6s versus omega-3s. And I tried a more extreme version of the carnivore diet, which is the lion diet. I don't know if you've done that. And that's where you have beef, salt, and water. And if your goal is to reduce inflammation in your body, then the lion diet is the best thing that you can do because beef is super anti-inflammatory, despite them telling us that beef causes cancer and, basically everything that you've been told, do the reverse.
Yeah, and I'm about to read A Vegans Have Smaller Brains, a very interesting book which goes into all the science behind the facts, which are that nutritionally, carbs and vegetables, i.e. plant foods, do not contain all the nutrients we need. And it's actually horrific, the evidence, the hundreds of years of medical evidence that show this, yet you can go to your doctor or medical professional or medical institution and they will advise you to go on a plant-based diet. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the first thing they say. And everyone believes that having those smoothies and juices is the healthiest thing like you can do. I believed it too for many, many years.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now you're free of those symptoms that you had, the PCOS symptoms, and are you free of the endometriosis?
Yes. I just had my 4th cycle since I started the carnivore diet. And I used to have this pain that would start on my left ovary. For some reason, it would come to my left shoulder and then it would come to this shoulder and then it would go down to the right ovary. It was hell on earth, I promise you. And now that pain is gone. And you know how endo lives in other parts of your body besides your uterus and your reproductive organs. So yeah, the fact that pain, bodily pain is gone is such a huge thing for me. I feel like I'm getting my life back.
Just through eating meat and fat?
Yes, just that. And sticking to it.
And tell us about the other things, because many people say they have other changes. So you had PCOS that you were targeting, endometriosis that you were targeting. You mentioned you were, you put on a lot of weight, your face has gone really puffy. So tell us about weight loss and energy and anything else that you experienced.
So I think by month 2, when I started, actually, I was about 65 kgs. By month 2, I was 57 kgs. And I haven't weighed myself ever since because around 55 kgs is like my goal weight. And so 57 was already great for me. And I think a lot of the time when someone is overweight, it's more inflammation rather than you're eating too much. So I think when people go on carnivore and they lose weight, they're losing inflammation, which means you're losing a lot of pain actually in your body. But there's been a lot of things that have changed for me health-wise. For some reason, I used to get heart palpitations periodically in my life. I have no idea why. And I saw, doctors about it and they didn't know why. But a few weeks into carnivore, that stopped happening and it still does not happen anymore, which is amazing because, heart palpitations will make you anxious no matter what. I mean, that's the last thing that you want to happen. And especially when people don't know why it's happening. And then another benefit is that I used to get dry eyes. For some reason, eating meat has helped me with dry eyes, which is crazy. And if you're on the screen all the time, which we all are, that is really amazing. Also, I used to have cracked heels. That doesn't happen anymore, which is a really nice benefit as a woman. Or as anyone, nobody wants cracked heels. So, something like that just tells me that I'm very nourished. If it's taking away dryness on my skin, that just shows that this saturated fat is actually doing me a lot of good. I just feel very balanced in terms of my hormones. I don't get moody before my cycle starts. I don't get that your period is about to start pain. And also my cycle is much shorter, much lighter, and I just feel healthier. Also, I used to go to the loo quite a lot throughout the day, going to pee. And I know that's very related to sugar flowing through you in some way. So now I don't spend the whole day in the loo going to pee up and down and also during the night, which means that I'm sleeping all the way through the night, which hadn't happened in many, many years. I'll go to sleep and the next time I open my eyes, it's the morning, which is amazing because then that means I'm really sleeping well. And I think that's actually one of the things I'm really most thankful for because good sleep is fundamental to your health. Other benefits is my hair is growing quicker. I know I'm wearing a wig today, but my hair is so much healthier and happier. And you could just see even in my skin that I don't have so many blemishes anymore. My skin is much smoother and clearer. And I feel so much stronger. And regarding working out, because I was dizzy after eating all those years, I've noticed now that I can get through a workout without food, which means that my blood sugar has really regulated and my insulin is in check. And I will be going for a blood test very soon to see how I really am doing. But sometimes your body speaks to you and you don't even need to see those numbers. If I can work out now without getting dizzy, that speaks volumes to me because sometimes I wouldn't even be able to walk outside just for a little walk without eating first. And now I can do Pilates or I can do resistance training without anything in my stomach. That speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about you've had so many wins there, Phumi, just from that one change. And I'm sure, like me, you wish you had found this decade ago. But you are now out to change the world and tell other women that they can reverse their PCOS, they can reverse their endometriosis. And you have an amazing Instagram channel called Carnivore Cutie. So tell us a little bit about, some of the inspiration for getting started and a little bit more about that.
So I started my Instagram because I noticed that there are hardly any carnivores who look like me and you.
Yeah.
There's hardly any Black people on this diet publicly. There's a lot privately because I've received DMs from Black men and women saying, I'm carnivore too. It's nice to see another African, but they don't publicize it. And I think that's because our Black community is very skeptical. We are very judgmental also sometimes about people's own choices. And, for whatever reason. So I started the page to show that if you're worried about doing this diet that seems to be working for other races, then use me as an experiment. It's working for me and I'll take the hit for all of us. But so far, so good. And I just want to share how good it is because when I go home, I see how people are overweight, they're unhealthy, they don't know what they're doing wrong. And what they're doing wrong is eating the carbohydrates that we all grew up on. I don't know about you, but for me, where I come from, the staple food is a very white, refined carbohydrate meal. The maize meal, and it's very common in Southern Africa. Every country has their own name for it. In Zimbabwe, we call it strala. If you're Shona, you call it sadza. In South Africa, they call it bap. And not only is it the staple food, even for breakfast, there is a morning version, which is porridge, but it's still made from the same maize meal. And so parents give their children that porridge as a breakfast on their way to school. And I remember having it in the morning, and an hour later, my stomach would be growling. I'd be so hungry because, you know, your blood sugar goes up and it drops just as quickly when you have carbohydrates only. And usually you'll have that meal with a little bit of lemon. And so there's absolutely no fats. It's just carbohydrates. And because we're so emotionally attached to our cultural foods, people eat that from the day they can swallow solid food to the day they die. And everyone is in poor health. And I think that's the biggest culprit. Also, you know, rice and potatoes are a very big part of the culture. So whether you are the richest of the rich or the poorest of the poor, your diet is carbohydrates, especially in Africa. And so me eliminating that, people seeing how I am thriving, I hope will inspire them to think about it. You know, even if you just try carnivore for 2 weeks at the least, you will not die after 2 weeks, and you will not plug your arteries after 2 weeks. So just give it a chance. All you can do is experiment on your own body. And, you know, you can go to the doctor and the doctor will tell you, don't you dare try this diet. But sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands, especially if what you've been doing isn't working.
I think that's the important thing. A couple of things you said there. If what you're doing isn't working. I had somebody call me and be interested in going on the reset, and she's been a diabetic for 25 years. And she said to me, but I know what to do. I know what to do. And sometimes we think we know what to do, but actually the result is we're diabetic and we're getting worse and we could be going on to medication now. When I know that anybody who adopts the primal diet, as we call it, which is a low carbohydrate diet, whether it's all the way to carnivore or whether it's more akin to the keto, where you do have a few low oxalate vegetables, because some people need to step on a baby step, and not everybody needs to be a full carnivore. The other thing is that our cultural diets were often started, the ones that we're eating now, in the period of agriculture. We had years before that where we were actually eating meat as our main diet. And through poverty, through people having to come together and live together all in one place, through agriculture, our diets changed from mainly meat to mainly plants. And especially in those countries where there was a lot of poverty, etc., then those cultural diets that people are wedded to are not really their cultural diet, because no humans were designed to eat a mainly carbohydrate diet. Because when you have more than 6 grams of sugar in your bloodstream, your body is in a state of alert, decay, glycation, disease creation. And so we know for a fact that these cannot be the proper, as Ken Berry would say, the proper human diet.
Yeah. That is the biggest deception, that these foods are ours. They're actually not.
Yes. They're not our foods. They're not our food. And we were talking a bit earlier, you were mentioning there's not many Black people who are doing this publicly, but what we do see is when people have studied tribes who live in the traditional ways and therefore eat a mainly meat diet, they're very healthy, like the work of Dr. Weston A. Price in the 1930s, who looked at those tribes. And then people in the West thought, okay, they haven't got Western diseases, that's because their genes are different. But as soon as the same people who were so healthy on their tribal diets moved into Western society and started eating our sugar-based, carbohydrate, now chemical-based diet, they all started to get the diseases of, at the time called diseases of modernization, all the chronic disease that we now talk about. It's just a simple case of biology. So it's stunning to me that still the medical profession are talking rubbish about vegetables when biology is we're designed to eat meat and fat.
Well, it doesn't benefit them to make us healthy, does it? So
it doesn't. And you are an absolute picture of health, Carnivore Cutie. I love your channel. It so brightens my day when I see your reels coming up.
Thank you so much.
They're so entertaining, guys. You need to be following on Instagram at Carnivore Cutie. And as well, if you would like coaching on getting started, or if you have PCOS, or if you're having problems giving up your maize meal, Phumi would be a great person to speak to. Phumi, tell us a bit more about how people can get in touch and what you do.
So I actually have to give credit to the carnivore diet for the vibrancy and the fun of my channel, actually, because when you eat like this, you just feel so happy because your blood sugar isn't going like this all day. And that's what makes people mean, I think. Then because I'm so stable throughout the day, And because I feel good and because I feel healthy, it allows me to be my best self. And that can happen for you too, as long as you give it a try. If you want to get in touch, I have my email address, I have the Instagram presence, I have the YouTube presence. You can message me there. And my email address is carnivore.cutie8, the number 8, at gmail.com. And yeah, I'm doing coaching unofficially for now. At some point, it will be official. But if you get in touch with me and you have questions and you're doubtful or you want to know, should I eat this? Should I eat that? I don't mind answering your questions and telling you what I would do.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today, Phumi. I absolutely loved speaking to you. And thank you for watching and for listening. As you've heard, you can contact Phumi on her Instagram, YouTube, or email. And any of you wanting to try it for yourselves and step into this primal way of eating with a 21-day reset, just message us with reset and we will send you more information. So for now, bye-bye, sexy people. I will see you later. Bye-bye.
Fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.